There is a fresh migrant crisis brewing for the European Union this morning, with thousands of refugees amassing along the Greek and Bulgarian borders. Men, women and children who are being held in Turkish migrant camps are being bussed to the border by Turkish officials. But border police on the European side are being told to hold the line, with tear gas deployed to prevent people from crossing. The Turkish President Erdogan has been condemned by humanitarian groups for using asylum seekers as bargaining chips. They claim it's an effort to try and draw European powers into his military offensive in Syria. The conflict took a deadly turn last week when 34 Turkish soldiers were killed in an airstrike. Well, for the latest, we're going to be joined by reporters on both sides of the border. Let's start in Turkey, where Christina Jovanovski is with us. Morning, Christina. What is the mood like for those being held and being prevented from crossing the border? And are we expecting even more people to arrive at the scene today?
Well, they are arriving right now as I speak. Dozens have been coming here in the last hour and just in the last 2 minutes. To the right of me is a country field where people have had to go because to the left of me is the road directly going towards Greece, and that's where Turkish police have blocked. I did just see them in the last 2 minutes allow one family with young children to go through the road. Everyone else has had to be going through these country fields, a bit of a longer route. And right behind me where they have landed is hundreds of people trying to get through to Greece, to the Greek border, but of course they have not been allowed through. There's also people waiting just to the side of the road here, still on the Turkish side, saying that they'll wait for up to 1 week to try to get to Greece. One woman, an Iranian here, was with two of her daughters. One was 11, one was 5 years old. She said she came here after hearing the announcement from the Turkish government that they were going to allow refugees through. She says she wants to get to Europe to get to give her children a better education, a more productive, successful life. She says that she is most upset at Greece for not letting them through and not to Turkey. Another man that I spoke to from Afghanistan said that he had gone right to the border crossing and he had claimed that he had been tear gassed by Greece, and this is why he is waiting here. Again, he had said that he was upset by Greece and by Europe for not letting them in through. Of course, these are the types of images and messages that the Turkish government wants to send. The Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan had warned Europe for months that he would open the gates of migration if it did not support their efforts in Syria to set up a safe zone where it wants to send back many refugees. This has been a very difficult political issue for Erdogan, and now he's putting pressure on Europe. But of course, the people here are just concerned trying to get to Europe and seeking a new home.
Christina, thank you very much. Well, let's go to the other side of the border in Greece, where Apostolos Staikos, our correspondent, is waiting for us. Morning to you, Apostolos. We've seen that the Greek riot police have been very firm. What's the Greek government saying about the unfolding situation at the border?
Well, first of all, the Greek government says that this is all based on a lie. As Christina said, they want to reach Europe. Yes, fair enough. That's what the Greek government says. But they were never invited. Since Thursday night, there is a rumor, there is information from the Turkish side that you can cross the border. But this is not true. For the Greek government, this is a threat for the national security. This is an attempt to violate the borders of Greece and the borders of the European Union. From the first moment for Greece, this is a problem, an issue that all the European countries must unite and deal together. This is why tomorrow morning we expect here the Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis with the President of the European Council, Charles Michel. Now we are approximately 400-500 meters from the migrants and the refugees. There are violent clashes on a daily basis. We were there yesterday, but we cannot see them right now. And when we get there, we can hear their voices yelling they want to cross the borders. Now, Bulgaria has a similar problem. Boyko Borisov said that Turkey should keep the migrants in their land. They have patrols in the area, and we should not forget that only yesterday, in 24 hours, more than 400 migrants arrived on the islands of Lesvos, Chios and Samos.
Apostolos, thank you very much. Just a few hundred metres away from that point on the border. Appreciate your time. Well, what about the wider European perspective on this? Let's go to Brussels to speak to our correspondent Shona Murray. Morning to you, Shona. Lawmakers there and also further afield are going to be really closely monitoring this situation. Do you know at this point what formal response there might be from the EU?
Well, indeed, Rosie, and if you just cast it back to Friday, the EU said it was given reassurances from the Turkish government that there had been no changes to the EU-Turkey deal. Obviously, they're monitoring the situation over all the weekend, and we saw significant numbers of refugees and migrants trying to come into Europe from the Greek and the Bulgarian borders, and of course those harrowing scenes that ensued. The EU has said that it will pledge full support for Greece, for Bulgaria, because of their being on the front line of the situation, that there will be security support, but also two extraordinary meetings of Foreign Affairs Council, the Foreign Affairs Ministers, and also Justice and Home Affairs, which is the Justice Ministers of the European Union. Charles Michel, the President of the European Council, will also visit the border on Tuesday, and other EU leaders have pledged full solidarity with Greece and Bulgaria, including President of France Emmanuel Macron, who says that the EU needs to fight this situation together. Of course, it all is happening in the backdrop of a very harrowing situation in Idlib, where people are suffering unspeakable violence and an escalation of hostilities there. So there is concerns that even if this issue is dealt with, of course, there will be several more hundreds and thousands of refugees trying to get into Europe. So this is very much a long-term problem. On top of that, there'll be questions over the credibility of Erdogan, who clearly appears to be trying to strong-arm the EU into interfering in Syria, or at least intervening in Syria, and questions over, of course, the future of the EU-Turkey migrant deal.